The Orphan Trains. Exploring ways to help orphans encounter a better life by sending them to homes across America. In 1854, about 30,000 homeless, orphaned, or abandoned children were living on the streets of New York City. Many people were very poor and couldn't take care of their children due to a shortage of jobs caused by many immigrants coming to America. Charles Loring Brace, who was a minister, explored ways to allow these children to exchange their old lifestyles and encounter positive experiences. He started a program that came to be known as the Orphan Trains. They were trains that took children off the streets of New York and brought them to homes across the United States. This program ran until 1929 and was a success, impacting over 200,000 children. This process led to our modern-day foster care and adoption system. Charles Loring Brace. Thousands are the children of poor foreigners who have permitted them to grow up without school, education, or religion. All the neglect and bad education and evil example of a poor class tend to form others who, as they mature, swell the ranks of ruffians and criminals. So, at length, a great multitude of ignorant, untrained, passionate, irreligious boys and young men are formed, who become the dangerous class in their city. New York City in the 1850s was a time of poverty. About 30,000 children were homeless, abandoned, or orphaned, and living on the streets or in orphanages. This was caused by not having enough jobs to suffice for so many immigrants from Europe coming to America to seek new jobs and opportunities. After a while, New York City was overpopulated, which caused a job shortage, and many people were poor. Some people abandoned their children on the streets. Some children ran away because of abuse or were neglected and put in orphanages. Others were orphaned when their parents died in epidemics of typhoid, yellow fever, or the flu. Many children sold matches, rags, or newspapers to survive. Charles Loring Brace. When a child of the streets stands before you in rags, with a tear-stained face, you cannot easily forget him, and yet you are perplexed what to do. Many of the orphans went to orphanages. The orphanages were getting crowded, so sometimes there wasn't enough food or room for so many children. The orphanages in the 1850s were mostly run by churches. In the orphanages, there was an emphasis on moral training and discipline. Alice Bullis Ayler. I was glad to have a bed to sleep in. I was fed, had clean clothes to wear, and attended public school. I was taught how to do housework and learned manners. Most of the orphanages gave the children a good life, but there was conflict such as separating children from their siblings and family. There was becoming more orphans in the orphanages than they could handle. Someone had to do something about this problem. Charles Loring Brace was born on June 19, 1826, and was homeschooled by his father, who was the principal at Litchfield Academy at this time. When he was old enough, he went to Yale University and then moved on to Yale Divinity School and grew up to become a minister. Soon he realized that he had more of a calling toward missionary work rather than in a church. Charles Loring Brace chose to explore innovative solutions when he saw the 30,000 orphan children living on the streets. He thought that a good way to transform the orphans into self-reliant members of society was to have them engage in beneficial work, earn an education, and grow up in a wholesome family atmosphere. Charles Loring Brace decided that the most successful way to handle this problem was to send the children west on orphan trains to good, Christian, farm family homes. Charles Loring Brace started the Children's Aid Society because he knew he could make a difference in many children's lives because of the orphan trains. He advertised and asked for donations to support the orphan trains. Railroads gave discounts for the children to ride. Many people donated their time and money. After a while, the Children's Aid Society had become one of the biggest charities in New York City. In 1854, Charles Loring Brace started the first orphan train and accomplished his goal.
The first orphan train was sent to Dowagiac, Michigan. After that, trains were sent all over the Midwest and into more than 45 states. The orphan trains were known for helping children living on the streets find new homes out west. They helped lower the number of orphans living on the streets and helped the economy by reducing poverty in many of the cities.
Although the orphan trains were a positive experience for many children, others encountered some problems along the way. One of the biggest problems with the orphan trains is that some children were not placed in good homes and were not treated fairly. Some of the people that came to see the children thought that they could take one to work for them, and some were abused and forced to work cheap labor.
There were very good people, very kind people who took in train riders, and there were also people who weren't so good and kind.
Charles Loring Brace encountered some struggles with how to move the 200,000 children he helped give homes to, and the difficulties of managing a corporation.
Alice Bullis Ayler. Everything happens for a reason. Some people are bitter about the trains, but not me. Even though there were some hard times, it probably saved my life.
The orphan train movement explored ways to save children's lives and give them new opportunities. There was less orphans living on the streets because of it, and immediately it helped meet the children's needs. The orphan trains influenced about 200,000 children and gave them new hope. The children who rode on the orphan trains had a greater chance of growing up and succeeding in life. They were able to live a life where they encountered opportunities to learn and be loved.
Before the orphan trains, there weren't many laws passed about adoption. If a child's parents died or couldn't take care of them, neighbors, relatives, or family friends would take the child in if they were able. The child would go to an orphanage or live on the streets if no one could take care of them. After the orphan trains, there were more strict laws passed regarding adoption.
Today, there are modern adoption and foster care services that started because of the orphan trains. Some laws that we currently use state that you cannot abuse or hurt children. If a parent cannot care for their child, they must get help, and the child is kept in foster care until the parent earns the right to care for their child again.
The goal for foster care is to make sure a child's safe until they can be reunified and returned back to their biological parent or a guardian. The goal of adoption is to have a permanent home for a child, a forever home.
Foster parents must be certified by the state before being allowed to take a child into their home. With the orphan trains, there was no way of ensuring that a child would have a safe home.
Many orphan train riders have shared about their experiences and encounters from the orphan trains. Today, many states hold reunions where orphan train riders gather to tell their stories. As children, they had the chance to explore a new way of life, different from the life they would have had. The orphan trains changed their lives forever.
Before the orphan trains, there were about 30,000 homeless, abandoned, or orphaned children living on the streets of New York City. Charles Loring Brace explored ways to allow these children to exchange their old lifestyles and encounter positive experiences. He came up with a solution and started the orphan trains. The orphan trains impacted the lives of over 200,000 children and gave them a greater chance in life. After the orphan trains ended, the United States came up with a better foster care and adoption system that assures children are put in safe homes. Because of these systems, children's lives are changed for the better. This all started because of the orphan trains.